Welcome to Native Calgarian and Mossy for listening. I'm your host, Michelle Robinson, speaking to you in Mohkinstsis in the Blackfoot Confederacy, home of the Niitsitapi, Tsuut'ina Dene, and the Yiharhi Nakota. I talk about history, current news, unheard news, book clubs, with special guests to give local or national issues a voice through an urban Satu Dene lens. My life's work will be to honor the voices of my ancestors and next generation with humor, love, and truth. Reconciliation is work, not performance. May we honor all Indigenous voices with that courage. Today is March 8th, 2025. Today is also International Women's Day. Welcome to Native Calgarian. If you enjoy hearing Indigenous content by this Satu Dene woman, my Patreon account is Native Calgarian, where you can pledge and support. Thank you to your previous donors for already showing that support. For those who cannot afford to give, I'd love to hear from you at nativeyyc@gmail.com, where you can send in your comments or questions. Also, giving a review helps, whatever medium you're listening from. I have a YouTube channel. You can go and subscribe. You can go to nativecalgarian.com for the latest podcasts and pin posts on social media. And remember, share the things you learn to your network. Oki, nagana go, meko che chestokom aki. Nera dago de goats nagotine siku seredi. My name is Red Thunder Woman. My married English name is Michelle Robinson, and I use they, them pronouns. My Dene lineage roots me in the land of the Great Bear Lake tribe in Treaty 11 in Delany. I'm a native to Turtle Island, and my Dene nation is uninvited to this area of Clinchotene Indahe in Satu Dene, meaning Many Big Dog Town, named after the Calgary Stampede. I was born in Calgary, or in Blackfoot, Mohkinstsis, as Michelle Elliott, an English name that has afforded me privilege in an English colonial world. Acknowledging proximity to whiteness is important because the darker the skin, the more racism a person experiences in colonial spaces. My late great-grandfather is Milo B. Wool of Delany. His daughter, Alice, is my now late granny. My mother and I are Northern Slavey Dene or Satu Dene, but my Indian Act and Post status card by the Canadian government says Yellowknives Dene. Through my father, I am a daughter of the Mayflower and a daughter of the American Revolution. Having a Canadian Indian Act and Post status card is a colonial construct by Canadian policies meant to divide Indigenous peoples' inherent rights. Indigenous Two-Spirit, or the Indigenous to us LGBTQ community, and Indigenous women are at the bottom of the Canadian socio-economic ladder because of colonial trauma, imposed poverty, racism, gendered violence, and land theft. I am not a social worker nor an elder, nor do I speak on behalf of all Indigenous people. This is about my journey as a Dene mom navigating this colonial, ableist, racist, misogynistic world in 2025. I think of all of this today, and I hope we honor the many Indigenous lives lost for this so-called country named Canada. I hope you see your role in the importance of stopping harm, and as a citizen, see your role in reconciliation, and as a treaty partner. Land Back is a movement that could save the planet from created by colonialism, and now we have climate change. But it would be part of treaty partnership, meaningful reconciliation, honoring global initiatives like the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. As a former geomatics drafter, I'd be happy to teach you more, but you'll have to pay me. But for free, you can go to nativecalgarian.com to learn more on my podcasts, as well as join my book club.
Oh, I know.
So I have a friend who hasn't been here for a bit and has a big update for us. So, Cory, would you like to introduce yourself in your way?
Um, Hi everybody. My name is Cory Ashley, and right now I'm not in Alberta anymore. I'm in BC. I had to get closer to family and friends, um, more safer for me, as well as the closeness I needed because I'm still going through a major grieving process, which I haven't allowed myself to do yet over the death murder of my wife, Lillian Van Ass Ashley. I'm 54 years old, white man, Apparently, I do have some Cree in my background. It's English, Irish, Scottish, Ukrainian, and Cree, so I'm kind of a mix. Um, I've lived in Canada all my life. In fact, I've never been out of Canada. I love Canada. Uh, don't love all the things happening to Canada, but I love Canada itself. It's a beautiful country, mostly very beautiful people, and for the most part, we all try to get along very well. And our problems, we've got so many problems that do need a lot of attention. One I'm going to talk about here, which is our healthcare system and our justice system. Those are my two main highlights. Uh, I would like to speak first, probably, about the SCO, Southern Chief Organization, which is located in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Grand Chief Jerry Daniels is part of the head of the organization. There's many. They have joined the public inquiry. And just so you all know, I believe it was May 26, 2022, was the day the Fatality Review Board met after I had a conversation with the medical examiner over my wife's death at the Hannah Hospital 2020 Christmas night. And our conversation is 23 pages long. I had it transcribed professionally, and it's been allowed to be in the court documents for the public inquiry, which is great. Um, he states in there that, he's not allowed to look at other evidence. He's not allowed to get into other investigations, see what they came up with or anything until the public inquiry comes through. The judge gives him the permission to do that. I asked him to clarify what that could mean, and in his words was, then maybe he can make an actual informed decision as to what happened to my wife that night, because as it stands right now, it's still under the word of undetermined as to why she's dead. He was shocked to find in the reports from the hospital that night that there was fraud, uh, lies, corruption, collusion. It's disgusting, the things he found in there. He says it's interesting how one minute they say, "Oh, we gave her her meds, her nighttime dose of her medication, and all of a sudden she's feeling fine." And then the next sentence writes that she's hyperventilating and scared to leave the hospital. So he goes, it doesn't make sense. They're contradicting each other one minute to the next. He goes, nothing made sense in the whole thing. Now, I know we've kind of discussed this stuff before because um, this is probably what, my fourth podcast with you now, Michelle?
It's
I think,
a couple in for sure.
yeah, we're a couple in. Well, it's been a few years. This is going on number five
Yeah.
calendar year.
Yeah.
And that's horrible. We're 5 years in, and we're just at the stage of a public inquiry now.
Yeah.
We've had three pre-inquiry conferences. On the second one was when the SCO joined and asked for standing in the inquiry on the grounds of systemic racism and racial profiling and a few other things. Um, and I did not, of course, oppose. I was like, yes, I want them here. These are people that have been fighting for a lot of people across our country, and they're tired of it, and so
Yeah.
am I, and so is a lot of people. We have a big problem in our healthcare system. It's systemic racism, racial profiling, clinical bias, and just plain racism,
Yeah.
which, of course, that covers everybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are, it covers every color of skin. Unfortunately, if you look at the statistics, so you'll notice that the indigenous native land, native to our land, or native to their land, we're on their land, is the hardest hit in this country, which to me is disgusting. But from what I've done a little investigating, I've found that that's pretty much the same way around the world. It's the indigenous people of their land that seem to get hit the hardest and, taken advantage of or harmed, hurt in many ways, their land stolen from them, their resources, and it just goes on in every country. And Canada is no exception. We have this here, and it's horrendous. It's horrific against our First Nation Indigenous people. And my wife was First Nation Indigenous. She's from Sandy Bay, Ojibwe. Uh, Most beautiful woman you could ever imagine. She's, I'll always see this picture, but this is one of my favorite pictures of her. kind of because she looks like an elf. The way she had her hair done that day, looks like her ears peeking out like a little elf.
Mm.
And I keep pictures of her around me all the time because, as well as I still keep my ring on my hand, I have to feel close to her. No, I've never given up. No, I've not stopped. I'm not stopping fighting. I'm not stopping the fight for justice. And I still haven't given myself time to grieve because
You got to
I don't
fight.
know.
It's not okay. I
If
see this with so many MMIW families. They have to fight the system rather than be allowed to grieve. And I'm sorry. I
can't
hate
grieve,
watching you and them all go through this. I hate this.
how can you grieve when you still have no justice for the person that they took?
Yeah.
I can't grieve until I know that justice has happened for my wife and know that I can look up and say, we now have justice.
Yeah.
And there's many, many different forms of that.
Yeah.
A lot of people ask certain questions. I'm going, look, there's just different forms, different ways, and different avenues of getting there.
Yeah.
And that's what we're working towards.
Yep.
Anyway, the other day we had a meeting. Well, I had a meeting with the SCO Southern Chief Organization and their lawyers, and they agree. Like in the first pre-inquiry conference, the judge said, "Cory, do you not have a lawyer?" And I said, "Do I look like I can afford a lawyer?" I said, "I'm on disability. I don't even get $1,500 a month to live on. I can't afford my bills and feed myself. My animals come before me because they were our animals, both Mayhem and Einstein, our cat and dog. My wife loved them to death. And so, I'm sorry, but I starve some days just because my doctor asked me to write up a list of everything I eat over 2 weeks. And 3 of those days in there was nothing: water, juice, pop, coffee. And she knows that. She's like, "Why are you not eating on these days?" I'm like, "Well, nobody can afford to eat every day nowadays." I said, "Who can?" My wife, she was my caregiver. She helped me a lot. I live now every day. My pain level is never, ever below a 3 or a 4. And that's only because that's by the time my painkillers actually get to full effect in me.
Sure.
And then my pain level starts to climb up. I'm averaging at least 5 stable, and I climb to 6, 7, 8 all the time. Especially if I mess up and miss a pill or miss my pills or something, a couple hours in, my feet start to burn, things start to ache, my back hurts, and it's like, what? And then I realize, oh, I forgot to take my pills because
Mm.
I keep them in a safe and I keep them only a day's worth on me at a time in my bottle, so I can always look and go, oh, okay, yeah, I missed that dose. I'm only 2 hours late, so I'll take them and then I'll just push myself up an hour later and to equalize it back out. It's not an easy thing to do, but unfortunately, until they will do something for me, which they refuse to do, um, I'm stuck with this situation. I've said if I ever came into a windfall of, lots of money in it, I would go to Mexico or to the U.S., pay a doctor to remove the cysts off my spinal cord, and most likely get my life back.
Mm.
And the pain would go away, and I could get off these meds, and it would be beautiful. And my wife and I, we talked about that many times because we went to neurosurgeons, and they just said, "Sorry, you're in Canada, and you have a lipoma wrapped around your cord for 10 inches long, and we need to do the entire operation, which means cut you from the top of your neck to the bottom of your tailbone, and then cut along or remove 7 vertebrae, cut along your spinal cord, remove the lipoma off your spinal cord, screw those vertebrae back on, then we'll remove the cysts off your spine and stitch you back up. So you'll never walk again." Basically less than a 3% chance. I always said 5, but the one doctor said 3, and I was like, yeah, well, that's not a very good chance. He says, no. He says, you'll probably never walk again in your life. He goes, you're walking now. We can't touch you, so live in pain, walk with your cane, and just survive. It sucks. But my wife, she took care of me. She wouldn't let me overwork. She would do the hard work, even though she was having problems. And she had abdominal issues. We weren't sure what it was. She was supposed to get an MRI, and of course, that never happened because COVID happened. And so it got pushed off and pushed off. And every other test in the world the doctor could think of, he did, and couldn't find out what was going on. And, who knows? Maybe she needed a hysterectomy or anything. I don't know when it comes to these things. I'm not a doctor, but he tried. And yeah, he's a good doctor. There is some out there.
No,
And I
really?
was there is some good
Liar.
ones out there. I believe that there's some good in everywhere we go, look, see, but it's the choices they make. Whether they choose to be that good person, whether they choose to show us the right ways and help us, that's up to them, and that's what defines them as a human.
Yeah.
And that's what they're going to have to look up to in the end and, talk to the creator about because it's between them and him. I can't judge them. Um, I'm supposed to forgive them. That's still been hard. I'm struggling with that because how do you forgive the people that killed the person you love the most in the world?
Yeah.
It's not a simple thing.
No.
Anyway, back to the positive things here. The SCO has joined. The judge told me I needed a lawyer. The judge requested one. And they said, no. So the judge said again, well, now you're going to have to request it, Cory. So I contacted legal aid. They said, we don't help you. We can't help you. You're not the criminal here. I'm like, no. Then my son and I did a lot of investigating and found that, which I asked there's a lawyer also for the public inquiry, but he's not on my side. He's not on their side. He's just the in-between guy to make sure both sides get their talks. I'm like, okay. I first understood it. I thought he was going to be there to help me, but no, he's not. He can't answer things, can't do anything. And I told him, I said, we found something about in Canada that you need two judges to sign off on getting a prosecutor when it comes to prosecuting RCMP, which means a lawyer wouldn't do me any good. I need a prosecuting lawyer, which would have to be signed off on by two judges, and then I would have to pay for him. I'm like, well, how the does that work? So I talked to the public inquiry guy. He goes, well, I don't really know about any of that. I'm like, well, you're in the public inquiry field. You've been there for a while. Shouldn't you know that answer? I say, because this is what we read when we looked it up online. Whether it's true or not, I'm going to be finding out shortly because I'm going to be talking to the SCO is contacting him to talk to him about my situation, the lawyer situation. I do have some backing. It's not going to be a full backing, but I do have some backing for a lawyer. I can't mention exactly who or whom they are, for the simple fact that nobody knows yet, and some other people will be very upset once they find out. But they're let's just say they loved my wife, but they're very close to my wife and their family. So, of course, lawyers are not cheap. The one I did find that talked to me was $5,000 a day. I just about choked on that number. And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" He goes, "No." He goes, "You're taking on your CMP and you're taking on the healthcare." He says, "So you're federal and provincial. We'll get back to you on this." And we had a big conversation about it. And then he said he'd get back to me, and then I never heard from him again. I was like, right on. That's nice. Called his office twice more, asking for return calls. Never got a call back. So I continued my search. I've now called well over, I would probably say well over 500 different offices between Edmonton and Calgary, only to find out there's over 7,000 lawyers just in Calgary alone. And then to find out that it's impossible. I went through the Law Society to try to get help finding a public inquiry lawyer, but there is no search criteria for that. So they can't help me find one. We talked personally, and the girl tried everything she could. And she goes, "I'm really sorry." She goes, "But our search criteria don't do that. You'd either have to look under criminal, and then that would just come up with a lawyer that would help you if you're a criminal." She goes, "Or civil litigation." She goes, "And it's not that either." And I said, "No." I said, "My civil suit is separate from this. This is the criminal aspect. This is the who hurt my wife? How did they hurt her? And how can we stop it from happening again?" Which brings up the lily cam. Still working on that too.
Mm.
Um, so anyway, I talked to the public inquiry lawyer again. He said by Monday, Tuesday at the latest this week, he's going to give me a list of a few lawyers that do. And then they'll be able to answer me if I have to have a special lawyer because I'm also taking on the RCMP in this. And the SCO, they weren't really happy about it when I told them that, but they said, "No, you're right, we have to." And they said, "This is going to be an extremely hard uphill battle." And I said, "Well, yeah, but did you expect anything less?" I said, it was going to be a hard battle from the get-go because we're going against the healthcare system, which is provincial.
Yeah.
They're going to fight. They're going to lie. They're going to do everything they can. They already have. That's been proven. I said, but the RCMP, this is over 150 years of them doing this.
Yeah.
over covering up murders, covering for the healthcare system, covering for their own mistakes in their justice system. So they agreed. They went, yeah, you're right. I said, well, I've got evidence to show. I've got conversations that have been transcribed, and I got a lot more that need transcribed that will prove the cover-ups. They'll prove what the RCMP were doing the whole time. And along with the fact that I'm now 4 years in, as of April 27th, it'll be exactly 4 years since my CRCC uh, investigation was started against four officers. And CRCC stands for Civilian Review Complaint Committee, which is another term for what a joke. You give us your problem, and we send it back to the police so they can investigate themselves. Yeah. I'm sorry, but that to me, where's the outside entity? There shouldn't
There
be
isn't.
RCMP investigating RCMP.
So
This is
actually,
wrong.
I'm just going to say for folks who have read the National Inquiry, the calls to justice, actually they address this, but you have to have political will in order to do it, and the provincial government, despite having the 113 pathways to justice, they have not implemented or put forward any of the 231 calls to justice either. So that's where we're at, and
And wasn't that supposed to go through quite a few years ago now?
their recommendations.
Like,
Today,
yeah.
it's International Women's Day, and I had seen on LinkedIn Janet Merlot, who is a RCMP that whistle blew against the RCMP. She has a book that's out, and there was a new 178-page report that just came out talking about these issues. Like, there are so many reports about what the RCMP need to do. This is a new report, not including the million other past reports that they do not implement. They will not implement. And when you have the main commander saying, "Oh, there's no such thing as systemic racism," like you're never going to address this, right? Like these are folks committed to being misogynistic, ableist, and racist at the end of the day. And the fact that Canada and
Mhm.
Canadians continue to put up with it after so many reports, I will never respect Canadians who have the audacity to say to my face they care about reconciliation. Because it's like if you did, you would lift a goddamn finger at least once.
Yeah. That's 100% nail on head. Mayhem, stay out of the way, turd.
All
I love you,
animals are
kitty.
welcome on the podcast.
Okay, you heard that, Mayhem. Apparently, you're welcome on the podcast. Want to say hi?
Mhm. Mayhem, what a
The-
perfect name. Oh my
oh yeah, this
goodness.
is this is Mayhem, and he's an awesome cat. Only problem is he likes to sleep between my legs. Oh,
As they do, as
this is
they do.
okay. Yeah, and then of course we have this guy here,
Hi,
Einstein.
sweetheart. Hi,
Hi, Einstein.
Einstein. Oh my
oh,
goodness. Hi,
oh yeah, he's
Einstein.
he's gotten pretty big.
Oh, what a
Get down, buddy.
beauty. What a beauty.
Yeah, he's 85, pushing 90 pounds now. And being a border collie, they're supposed to be 40 to 45 pounds, so he kind of doubled.
Yeah, but we love
But
them.
yeah, oh yeah, he's not fat in any way. He's just a solid dog.
Yep, yep.
And he,
That's great.
yeah, and he loves to play, and he loves to play with his toys and balls and ropes and all that stuff. And yeah, it's too wet today though, because I took him out for 10 minutes and he's soaked to the bone. Okay,
So
go lay
you're
on the
in a
bed, bud.
rainy
Go lay
part
down,
of
please.
BC.
Einstein, go lay down. Yeah, well, everything's getting hit with rain right now, apparently. But at least we're not in the iceberg. That's one positive part about it. It's
Yeah.
not freezing, so because we did go through some pretty nasty cold, but yeah, no, it's not bad. Like I said, my only reason for getting out of Hannah was having my life threatened by people there. And when I asked for help, the RCMP, oh well, we talked to the one guy. There was 20, 30 people involved in this. You talked to one guy. And then that guy still followed me around and fingered me and chased me with his truck. And then I chased him and then he ran. And I was like, what is like, it was disgusting. And I'm like going, my life gets threatened. I go to the police, which is where you're supposed to go to. a guy that has an extremely bad criminal record for a lot of things, and they don't do anything about it.
No, they
It was
never
right
do.
online. He threatened to beat me within an inch of my life with my cane and then do it again.
You know,
Then he
Cory,
outright threatened to kill me.
honestly, like that's why I talk about patriarchy all the time. Like the violence against people is so normalized here. People think it's not, but I grew up in small town Sylvan Lake. Violence against people is just a normalized thing, and then you start adding in any type of intersectionality, and it's worse. And the police,
Hmm.
they don't prevent crime. They just come after the fact. And as have you seen, it's not like they do a very damn good job of it after they do show up.
Nope, they don't. Well, look for the fact that, 3 times I requested the video from that hospital from that night. And that was 3 times within 12 days. And on the 12th day was when I did my interview at the police station under camera and requested it. And on the 14th day, apparently that video evidence was all deleted.
No, it's a joke. The system is a joke.
Yeah.
They
Same as
covered
I
each other
asked
up.
for the evidence, oh, they do. ATIP, which is another organization or in our country you can go to get a copy of the file, when you deal with a police officer getting pulled over, speeding ticket, anything, they're recording because they got cameras on. Well, the police officer dealt with me the night in the hospital when they removed me for recording a video, which is on the video. Um, when they did that, the I requested that information, and I got a disc, and it starts going off. Him getting there, all that stuff, coming in, getting to where I am, and then I begged him to help. I literally pleaded and begged with him, and I don't beg. I had no other choice. I didn't know what else to do, and I begged this officer to help because they were killing my wife. They weren't doing anything. I need help now. And he said, "Yeah, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do, and you have 1 minute to say goodbye to your wife." That part's not on the recording. All of a sudden it comes, "Okay, Mr. Ashley, it's time to go."
So they
And
edited
that's it.
it. Yeah. You know,
And
I'll
they're not
tell you,
supposed to. They're not
a
supposed to
lot of
touch
those
it.
doctors or a lot of those police officers are like literally married to those fucking nurses. So, they just cover up
Hmm.
for each other all the time. It's disgusting.
Well, that's why when I talked to the SCO in our meeting, I said we got to take them too because they're part and parcel. They're working together.
Uh-huh.
And the only way to stop this from happening anymore is to bring the entire thing into the picture. The whole thing has to be involved in this public inquiry. And that's the only way to actually get somewhere with this. And, they said, well, what about stopping it from ever happening again? And I said, well, that's why I've mentioned the lily cam. And then we got into a bit detailed conversation about that. They want, of course, more information on it now and everything because they love the idea. And I said, well, yeah. At first I started where, we put cameras on the doctors and nurses and on the walls and stuff. And then I thought, well, had to work through all the privacy issues in Canada along with OSHA, because OSHA it may be a state's privacy guideline, but it's used big time in Alberta.
Hmm.
And so I studied them all. I read just about every single page of every single privacy issue I could find, a lot of, repeat this, repeat that. And then what I learned was a way to get around all the privacy issues and, and to protect people. And it came out that no, it should be the public, it should be the patients that request the camera or the family because the patient's, unconscious or something, but they should be the ones requesting the camera and request a lily cam.
Yeah.
Now it goes on them. And whenever a doctor or a medical practitioner walks in that room or any kind of person, there's a sensor at the door that would record their magnetic on their name tag and can
Hmm.
record their magnetic because the technology's here, and boom, the camera will turn on and record everything they say, everything
Yeah.
they do while they're in that room with you.
Yeah.
And that protects them. It protects the patients, and it also protects everybody else's privacy.
Yeah.
And then the only way, like along with that, the other best part is none of these videos are saved in the hospital or in a police station.
Hmm.
Like the police cameras all go back to their own police stations and videos are all kept right there.
Yep.
No. That way they got options to go and edit it, delete stuff and everything, which is what they've apparently done in my case. They said they haven't. I guess we'll see because they said theirs is full. Well, we'll see if they're lying or not, which guarantee they're lying.
They're
But
they're lying.
Oh, I know. But no, the LilyCam idea is for everything that goes to the cloud and then to a site. And it's a special site. And every video, that people are using their cameras has its own tag number and goes saved in that site. Now, somebody says, okay, they did racism against me. They hurt me. They gave me the wrong medication. Or they killed my father by doing this. Goes to court, gets to like where I'm at, a public inquiry, the
Yeah.
judge can request that video. Then it would go to a doctor that has an ethics license and been approved and everything through the organization. And he looks at the videos and can decide, yeah, no, there is. That definitely happened. Lets the judge know, and then that video goes to the judge. The judge gets to see it. He'll decide whether he or she would decide whether to bring it out or not. But the evidence is right there because now you got a third party, unbiased witness, an entity that you cannot go against because it's video evidence
Yeah.
and it's untampered with because it's been saved since day one. Every minute is saved in that cloud. It's a way to protect everybody. And then say somebody else did get caught in there that was, not of that family or something. Well, that's easy to black that person out.
Yeah.
And, they went walk by, oop, blacked it out. It's simple. So it covers every privacy issue and it gives the people the choice,
Yeah.
whether they want that protection or not. Um, from what I hear from a lot of people want that protection.
Yeah.
Some people did complain about, well, what about my privacy? I don't want my boobs hanging out and on camera and stuff. I'm going, that's not how it works. So
Yeah.
that's why I've done better at explaining it to people and trying to get it out so they understand, this is a safety situation. I'm caring about everybody and trying to make sure everybody's protected, but it is your own choice whether you want that.
Yeah.
And that made a lot of people feel better. So that's why I, you know, try to listen to the people and give the people what they want, because that's what you need to do. If you're not doing that, then you're failing the people.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember
Um,
those days.
yeah. So right now, there's, like I said, a lot of good things happening, positive things with the SEO joining.
That's good.
Um, I'm still, like I said, still trying to fund for a lawyer. I do have a GoFundMe going. It's been very slow, but slowly people are joining, people are sharing, people are donating, which I thank God for them every day. Our Creator is so blessed and blessing me because uh, two things I need funds for. One, I need to be able to come up with some of the funds for a lawyer, and that's 100% guaranteed, no choice. I want a lawyer that's going to fight for me. Even if the
And
courts did appoint one, what would I get?
yeah.
A legal aid lawyer. What kind of lawyer would I get if they appointed it for me? Say federal government, yeah, give this guy a lawyer. I would get one that would do everything for them because he's appointed for them. Uh, you know,
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be getting contacted by a federal lawyer next week or the week after, apparently. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, we're almost 2 months into our 3 to 4 month break, and I'm finally getting a hear from a federal one. Okay, that's great. Yeah, but he's there for the federal government. I go, that's not for me. No, no, that's not for you, Cory. They maybe will look at it and try to think if they can do any help in that. And I'm like, yeah. So I get somebody who just doesn't want to help me. One doesn't want justice for my wife or to take down the RCMP and the healthcare service like we need. And it's not take them down either. I'm stating that kind of wrong. It's correcting their mistakes and coming up with a way to stop this from ever happening again, which is why I've imposed the LilyCam, because they're not going to want to be doing malpractice and swearing or slapping patients around when they're under camera.
Mm.
That's kind of going to, I guarantee it won't stop 100% of it,
Yeah.
but it will start. And once
Yeah.
it starts, it will, do what a rainfall does. It just keeps adding more and more and more. Eventually, there won't be any of these problems again in the healthcare or our justice system. And that's what we need to do. That's what we need to work forward to. But to get justice for my wife, the other thing is I want to be able to attend this. It's they need to see me, and I want to be at this trial. This trial is supposed to start in the next possible 2 months. Of course, I do get a lawyer anytime. He's going to need time to go over all the evidence because I've got tens of thousands of pages of evidence and recordings. There's a lot to go through. Um, right now, there's over, I think, around 4,500 pages from the inquiry that I was given and family members and the SEO have been given, big stack boxes of these things of the what evidence they've brought in. Well, then there's what evidence I got to bring in, as well as got to come up with a list of who all we believe needs to be witnesses in this, whether they're witnesses on my wife's side, whether they're hostile witnesses on the doctor's side or the hospital side or police side. all these have to be taken into consideration, how many people, which will determine how long this public inquiry is going to go. We have no idea yet because we haven't got to that stage. And three pre-inquiry conferences with the judge, every one of them. And oh, by the way, public inquiries, that means these things are public. That means people can technically go uh, to the somewhere in the court systems, find the public inquiries, and they should be able to watch what's already transpired. I was told this the other day that
Ah,
it should be public and they
yeah,
should be able to go and watch the three conferences we've already had, what's already been said. The fact that the judge says, Cory, you need a lawyer. The fact that I say, yeah, I know I need a lawyer because I need help. I can't do this all myself. I've never proclaimed to be a genius, but I've also never proclaimed to be dumb. I
yeah,
am a decently smart man,
of
but
course.
this is something I cannot fail. And to try to do this myself, I know right away I cannot pull it off. I don't have the legal background, especially after I found out about the Black Law Dictionary. That scared me. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
No,
Okay, there's a Black Book Dictionary for courts, laws, and language. Um, it was pointed out to me that if they ask you if you're a human being and you agree to being a human being, you just agreed to being a savage. That is a dictionary, the Black Book Dictionary definition of a human being is a savage. So you got to reply with, no, I'm not a human being, I'm a living being. Lawyers know this language because it's in the courts, it's in the laws. They can use it whenever they want. I spoke with one lawyer. He goes, "Yep." He goes, "That's real. It does exist." He goes, "I haven't had to use it." He goes, "I haven't seen much of it." He goes, "But I do know it's been used." He goes, "And they can use it anytime they want because, it's there's many additions to it. I think there's 12 or even more than 12 additions to it." I started reading some of it, and I just like, "Holy cow, this is scary." Some of the things in there are. You would think it would, a human being. Well, yeah, I'm a human being. No, because now you're admitting to them you're a savage. Now they don't got to listen to anything you say.
but that makes sense because like today's International Women's Day, and on Persons Day is like the acknowledgement that white women were considered persons through the British law, and Indigenous people weren't considered people until the 60s. So,
Yeah,
like that makes sense with their stupid legalese.
it's kind of weird when you find this stuff out, though. Like, thank goodness I got some pretty smart friends too, and
Yeah,
they came to me and told me, Cory, do you know about this? And I'm like, never heard of it. So they explained it to me, and then I went to my phone and looked it up and went, holy crap, it exists. I was like,
yeah,
wow.
yep,
So then I asked lawyers that I knew that my one lawyer friend, which we've known all along, Colin May, he's been through a lot as well.
yep.
Uh, Medical malpractice against his father in the healthcare system. He's had things with the Law Society going on. He was head of the human rights for a short period of time, and then he was fired by Tyler Sherando.
He's been on our
Um,
podcast. So for
yeah,
folks who are interested, go back and see Colin May's episodes.
he's a great man. He's a very smart man. He's coming out with a book now.
That's
Um,
good.
I just what he was put through. A bit of it felt too that like I told him I said I feel sorry because if any of this has fallen back because of me because he helped me. And he goes, no, Cory, he goes, they wanted to attack me too. He goes,
Yeah.
it's just the way it's happening, and it was an NDP thing, it's pretty disgusting. But if you watch, like she said, watch his podcast, you'll be amazed. Um, but like I said, he helped me with quite a few things, and he was one of the ones that clarified, yeah, no, that Black Dictionary book really exists, and yes, they can use that language anytime they want. He says, so careful what you say. I said, well, I just know I'm not telling them I'm a human being. I'll stick with living being because
Which is
that
so
scares me,
messed up. It's so messed
isn't it?
up. So
Yep,
messed
it
up.
is. It's corruption. It's wrong. It's the worst part. You think of these things, it just makes me shake my bloody head. But so my daughter started a GoFundMe for me, um, justice for Lillian, of course, the public inquiry.
That'll
A
be in the
lot of
show
people,
notes for sure.
a
And
lot
I
of
just shared
people.
it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
A lot of people were actually, well, not a lot. No, pardon me. Exact opposite, a very small percentage. A lot of people were backing me and saying things to these people that were coming out saying very nasty stuff to me. trying to call me a scammer, a liar, and everything. Oh, and you can get a lawyer, and they can take it on pro bono, or they'll take it on. They can get paid afterwards from the money. I'm going. There is no money in a public inquiry. This is about the
No.
legalities stuff.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I was called a liar. I'm called a scammer. I'm called, and people are like, wow. Some people were defending me very well, which was
Sure.
thank you very much, people, because I appreciate it. But at the same time, without trying to get mean or nasty, I call a couple. I said, I go, you're being a little pathetic
Yeah.
because no, I'm not. And you're saying things that you have no clue. If you want to have a clue, go and investigate.
Yep.
Google me. You can
Yep.
Google my name and you'll find me.
Yep.
I've been on the news. Go
Yep.
look at those news podcasts, APTC, APTN, CTV. I've been on them. I've been in the newspaper, Drumheller newspaper,
Yep.
and this story is everywhere. And a lot of people said, in 5 years, there's no way it's taken 5 years to get to this point. Well, I'll tell you, there's cases that have taken longer than mine.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I actually referenced Janet Merlot because, like, I got her
Yeah,
book years ago, let alone this new report coming out about systemic discrimination against women in the RCMP.
yeah.
And this is one of
There's,
like five that I know of.
wow.
Yeah.
Did you know there was a big study done in Alberta just recently in the last year or so here with over 11 million uh, patient visits to Alberta hospitals? Over 11 million people, and it was done on the systemic racism, and they found it was rampant through Alberta.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's bad.
I told the judge, these people, especially the head that, there was three of them that got together, wrote this book or this investigation, did this investigation and put it all out and all the evidence out. I said they should be part and parcel of this public inquiry
Mm,
because they're professionals and they've studied the field and they know what's actually happening.
yep.
Of course, all I got twice now was, oh, the only ones they've called in so far is the medical examiner and his medical examiner buddies. And I'm like, no, no, no. There's a lot more that's going to go on to this. And when I wrote up a letter to the judge, because I've been given permission to write letters to the judge, which of course gets shared to everybody, it goes to the public inquiry lawyer, and then he disputes it or distributes it to the judge and anybody else that's actually involved right now.
Yep.
And I told her, I said, no. I said, when you want to, she asked me for a list of people. Um, it was hard. I stressed about it and stressed about it. I sat down and I started going through the paperwork and stuff, trying to figure it out. I was like going, the list of people is great. It's not a small list in my head. And I started to list, we got the police, of course, the ones that were involved, the ones who tried to cover it up. Then we got the nurses, hostile witnesses, the doctor, the paramedics, because like the one paramedic talked about how she was treated racist from the one nurse, the one that I, stayed and killed my wife, and because she's Mexican descent. Well, how did you even get here? Well, my parents moved me here, and I went to school here, and now I'm a paramedic here. Yeah, but how did you even get here? Like, and it gets worse.
Yeah.
Um, things found that in this whole thing, I came up with a list. I started till I got to number 5. And then I just said, I go, you think about this. I said, this is 5. I said, and this is not even a close percentage of how many people need to be involved in this public inquiry.
Right.
If you want to do this right, you want to get to the bottom of exactly what happened to my wife, and you want to find out how to stop it from happening again. I said, the two problems that are going to exist in this is number one, my wife was murdered. How do you come to the grounds of where this is and actually saying public inquiry murdered? Because you
Yeah.
can't. They can't
Which is,
legally do
even
that.
though that's what it is, I know we found that with the national inquiry too, right? Where it was very
Yep,
clear murder in so many cases, but you're not allowed to say that, even though it's what
that's
it
correct.
is.
Failure of a proper investigation by the RCMP. Now,
Yeah.
we know they're famous for this. They've been doing that for years. But when they fail to even talk to the main person that's being accused of the actual murder,
Yeah.
that it's failure complete all the way around. Um, my lawyers, like my civil lawyers, because everybody knows there's a civil suit out there too looming. Um, I've already finished my talks. They have done with 98% of everybody because there's only one person that's still holding out, the doctor that was involved.
Really?
Yep. She's supposed to have been in talks with them 3 or 4 times now. And every time it's either I'm sick or no, can't attend, or I got something else. I'm sorry, busy that day.
Uh-huh.
And they've tried to make concessions and times not. Well, the next one has been agreed to near the end of March. And I just told them the other day, I go, do you expect her to show up? Because she's not going to. There will be another excuse. And it's time to just say no and be done with her and decide whether we're going to court on this or whether they're going to settle because I'm
Yeah.
done with this. It's
Yeah.
stupid. She was supposed to be in there talking before me. They talked to everybody else, all the nurses, the paramedics, the doctors, medical examiners. They talked to everybody involved except for her. And she just kept refusing. I told him, I said, you know what you need to do is pull her records for that day where she said she couldn't attend because she was sick. Pull her records, and I'll bet you dollars to donuts she's in her office dealing with patients. And if she's sick, what is she doing in her office dealing with patients? Because it
Well,
was a
that
Zoom, just like this, or she was supposed to go on a Zoom or maybe WebEx. I think it was Zoom, and discuss with them what happened that day.
I don't
She
know.
won't.
Those doctors, like, they have all these associations that just protect their butts. So I'm sure she has a really great lawyer through her association that's just protecting her butt.
She hired her own lawyer. She's
Whew.
terrified. AHS has lawyers for all the staff at AHS.
Yep.
The
Yep.
nurses, doctor, everybody. AHS has lawyers.
I know it's
The RCMP,
impossible. It's impossible to work with them.
the
It's so
RCMP
frustrating.
have lawyers.
Yep.
The doctor hired her own lawyers.
Wow.
And, I guess you couldn't be more guilty. Now everything's been hidden behind these lawyers.
Yep.
And when I was in my talks, her lawyer was there, and he was listening. I said, no. I said, that doctor is 100% guilty. I said, if you go through the College of Physicians and Surgeons investigation, 1,300 and some odd pages, done by two doctors, Dr. James McCookus and Dr. Jean Langley,
Mm.
and they did the investigation. Then they sent it to a peer review doctor who also came up with the same conclusion that, no, Dr. Hammond's guilty. Dr. Hammond made some bad mistakes that night.
Mm-hmm.
And then the complaints director went to that peer review doctor and asked him to take that back. And the peer review doctor said, no, I'm not changing my statement. That's my statement.
Yep.
So they closed it and said, no, you can't appeal it. Done. The doctor's fine. She didn't do anything wrong, even though it's right there in black and white that she did wrong. So I'm just like, well, how could they miss that? Like, it's right there in black and white. I read it myself. I've got the file right here. I was like, this is nuts. Seriously. And then Karna, that was the other one that really got me. Because the investigator that investigated that, she was their top, they said top investigator. And she's a beautiful lady in her 60s, registered nurse, did teaching of nurses, everything. She's, very brilliant. And then she went into the investigating field. There was 82 charges she came up with against the two nurses.
Wow.
Unheard of number. You'll never find that number anywhere else against anybody else because that doesn't exist.
Yep.
She came up with 82 charges, 52 against the one and 30 against the other. Then when it came time, we were waiting because we were supposed to have the Karna trials. I was going to get to speak on my wife's behalf. The public was going to be able to watch it because it was all set for public. Many people had already applied to be in it.
Yep.
Many people were waiting. They sent in their forms to be part of the public inquiry, or the not public inquiry, the Karna trials, which is College of Registered Nurses of Alberta. And 2 days before it was supposed to happen, I get this email that I've been removed from the public or from the Karna trials, and that it's being closed to the public.
It's not okay,
Then
man.
when I read, then when it happened, we read what happened. They basically slapped the nurses on the hands and let them go. Write a 10-page essay or 500-word essay or something about what not to do. You got to tell a boss if you ever change your jobs. You got to tell your new boss what happened, and that's it. They're still working. They're still treating patients every day. I'm absolutely disgusted. So they didn't even nail him with 82 charges, like four each. They talked about that was it.
Yep.
And then when I start reading the first few pages of why it was closed, it was apparently closed because I posted pictures of weapons, guns, knives online with threats to the healthcare system.
What?
Well, it's right on their website. You go there and it's probably still sitting there on their website. You can read it. And I tried to get a hold of a lawyer that's willing to take him on for defamation of character and slander because I never did anything like that.
Of
And I
course.
requested the evidence. I said, then if that happened, I said, I want to see the evidence. That's apparently about me. I have the rights to see it. So give me the. No, they didn't. They won't even answer my phone calls. Won't even answer my emails. They just shut me down.
Wow.
And I never did anything like that. I'm not stupid.
Yeah, I know. I
A
well, and
lot of
I was
people,
monitoring you until very recently. Like I could say no
a
to
lot of
that.
people were,
Yeah,
a lot of people,
exactly.
lawyers, doctors, nurses. The list goes on. There was a lot of people, high
Yeah.
up people. I was told are all monitoring me, following me, and
Yeah.
and I got some calls. Corey, you didn't do that, and I'm
I
like,
know, and not
no,
all of us can testify you never did that. And none of us would be
no.
lying. Like that's a wild thing about it. So I was while you're chit-chatting, kind of telling your story, I was looking up you well first came on my podcast March 23rd, 2021, November 12th, 2021, July 18th, 2022, April 3rd, 2023, and now today. So just
Wow,
on my podcast alone, this is your fifth podcast.
this is my fifth.
Yep.
Wow,
I know,
wow.
which is good because like you've and that's what I mean. Like you for transparency purposes, like it's not like you haven't been an open book about the whole thing. It's wild to me anybody would accuse you of being like wronged about this or something. Like it's just
Well, I know
wild.
why. I
Oh,
know
I
why they
know
do
why.
that
You
though.
know
It's
why, but
because it's the guilty people with fake accounts, and they're
yeah,
they're trying to defend themselves, and the best way is to make me look like bad from some fake account, and or it's friends of them that are trying to defend their friends.
yeah,
And of course, there's also those trolls out there that do it just to troll people. So I've learned that, and that's why I try not to get mad at at it because it's like, why? I'm just going to waste my energy on them being upset.
yep,
And because when it first started happening to me a long time ago, where people were calling me down and everything, it was upsetting. It was hurtful inside.
yeah,
And now it's just like, no, I just, Creator, can you take this on, please? Because I don't want to let it stress me.
yeah,
And I just let it go away because these people, yeah, go ahead, say all the bad things you want. If people really want to know, people will investigate me. They'll look into it and they'll see the truth. And the truth shall always prevail. So I'm not worried about it because I know I didn't post no weapons online and threats to the healthcare system. I'm not stupid. I would never do that anyway. I don't threaten people.
I know.
When I do things, I make a promise and I follow through with it. My promise was I'm going to fight for justice the legal way for my wife. And
Yep,
I'm going to fight for justice to help protect everybody else I can in my wife's name.
yep.
And that is how I want to honor my wife. And that's been since day one. I was told the other day, oh, you keep changing your story. And they were saying all these things. I'm like going, no, I've never changed my story once. My
Not
story's
one
been my
time.
story.
Anyone who
No.
says that is just lying.
Yeah, well, that's what people do to try to make people look bad, especially people that are trying to ask for help. Yeah, he's just trying to scam all the rich people out here and everything and that and get help because he needs money because he's, well, yeah, I've got a roof over my head. I'm not wet. It's raining out. I'm dry. And
It's
this is my
wild to
home.
me. That is so
And
wild to me how people are about you. It doesn't make any
yeah,
sense to me at all.
that's why the only thing I can think of when I see that stuff is I got to say, well, you're either one of the criminals that I'm against right now in court, or you're one of their friends or family trying to defend them, or you're just a troll.
Which is
And
usually the case, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I've got some beautiful friends though and family. My children, my daughter was standing with me. She said, "Dad, don't let that stuff bother you. They're just stupid people. Because if they really knew the truth about you, they wouldn't even come on here and say anything because they know they'd be, chopped
Yep.
right down." And I go, "Yeah, I know." She goes, "So She makes me feel so much better about myself. You're not bad, Dad. You're okay. You're doing what you need to. You have never wavered."
Yep.
I said, well, I can't. My story's not going to change. There's no way to change what's happened. There's
No.
only what can be done and what can be shown now.
Yep.
And in all honesty, everything is out there. And like it's been on these podcasts. I've done my own Facebook lives how many times, and I've told stories. I've told what's happened. I've told what's going on at that minute.
Yep.
Um, I've never hidden a thing. And you can go through my stuff. You'll never find anything bad.
No. No, no.
And when people have said I'm threatening them, I got, oh, and the other day somebody says, they're going to nail you for slander, defamation of character. You're saying they murdered her. I go, but they did.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's never slander if it's the truth. My
That's
husband and I,
just
we
it.
talk about that all the time because I'm always like, really worried about policing myself on my own podcast. And he's like,
Yeah,
yeah, but is it the truth? I'm like, yeah. And that's why he's like, never doubt that. Like, just you're saying the truth. That's enough.
that's exactly it. And that's, what else do you have besides the truth? When I told the SCO the other day, I said, I want you guys to know I'm just asking, because I'm going to go on a podcast here. And I told them about you and stuff and that, and they go, well, Cory, I don't see why not. They go, all you do is tell the truth and the facts anyway, so go
Yeah.
ahead. They go, it can't harm anything.
I'm not gonna lie to
Uh,
you, Corey. I'm just for my listeners, like for folks who have been following me for a long, long time. Started in 2018. A lot of episodes I've had to take down, and the reason is because a friend is trying to get a job, so they want it down. A friend felt like it's better for their mental health, so take it down, no problem. Um,
my
so we have
goodness.
all of these consistent podcasts of yours, despite going through all these different lawsuits, and not one time have you asked me or has your teams asked you to remove a podcast. Not once.
No,
So it's
nope.
always been out there for people who are actually interested in learning it. But
Mm-hmm.
so that's why like I can always tell when people come to my face and be like, "Oh, really? I've never heard of Lily and Ashley." I'm like, I can tell you never listened to my podcast then because like this is
Yep.
literally episode 5 us talking about this.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good way to point it out because
Yeah.
these people that say, "Oh, I'm following you," well, then how have you not seen it?
I was looking
Like,
and you have the new GoFundMe, and before I was just sharing your Hotmail account for to transfer funds.
mm-hmm.
So, like all of that's going to go into our description so people can't claim to not know. It's there for everybody to see. And, I really appreciate you coming in and giving us an update. And like I've always said to you, and I believe it until the end of time, you are always welcome on this podcast. We want to hear updates. We want to hear, you know, the process for you, but we also want to seek justice. Like Lillian
That's
obviously does not like it is wild to me on the International, Day of Women, we're still here.
mm-hmm.
There's still no justice. Like we're talking about literally medical murder and there's no justice yet. Even despite a Joyce Echequant inquiry in Quebec and I was Googling us and you sent me another medical report about racism, and I was sharing it with my friends and we commented on it. But I think people just forget that we talk about these things all the time. And like I can honestly say the TRC calls to action for health not been implemented. You were talking about the
Mm-hmm.
Law Society earlier. Those bastards at all provincial jurisdictions are fighting anti-racism training and Indigenous education, all of them because they don't want
Mm-hmm.
to change.
No,
You
they
know,
don't.
there was a man of color out in Vancouver, out in BC, being the lead on that as well. Like, and I'm like, you know, eh,
Oh my
until
goodness.
I know, until people get it, like it's just going to continue and continue. But most people are like, oh, the government's dealing with that. And it's like, no, they're not. And you're
They're
not
not.
holding them to account. And you don't
No,
know anything about your own damn government. And it's so frustrating.
it's very frustrating. It is because look at the amount of people that are being let down right now.
Yep.
Something totally kind of off topic is how come there are still how many reserves out there with no clean drinking water?
Yeah.
Something promised years ago,
Yeah.
and they still don't have it.
No,
I
no.
it just blows my mind that people say, "Oh, our governments are doing this and they're doing that," but they're not. They're not. They're telling you they're going to,
Yeah.
but just because they said they're going to doesn't mean nothing until they actually do it. It's the actions that speak louder than words,
Yeah,
and
100%.
that's where we're at today.
Yeah.
My actions have never changed.
No.
I've been steadfast since day one that I'm fighting for justice. I'm fighting for it the legal way.
Yeah.
And now I'm at the point where I need help. Whereas everybody said, Cory, you need help, just reach out, let us know. And so I did. Well, my daughter did. She said, my dad needs help. He needs a lawyer, this and that. Now I've been trying to talk to people. I'm going on sharing it online in different groups and stuff. And it's like, I can't back down. I can't change what's happened. I can only change what happens going forward.
Yep.
And my goal is to get justice for my wife, to protect other people in honor of my wife with the lily cam, and to stop this corruption in our healthcare system and our police system from continuing. And hopefully, our governments and everything will start to fall in line and start to actually do what they say they're going to do. Like truth and reconciliation. How about you actually start implementing some of them? These are
Yeah.
suggestions that everybody agreed with, but not one has been done. And
Yeah.
that's sad. It's absolutely one of my favorite words. It's pathetic.
Yeah.
Sorry to say, but get on it, people. Come on now. It's not hard to do.
Yeah.
Doing the right thing should be easy.
Yeah. I know it should be. And that's the thing. And I always laugh because like even today we were talking about something that seems like a very simple thing to do, and I just said, "Man, you can't convince settlers to quit hitting their kids and implement TRC number 6. So how are we going to get them to do something like this? Real systemic change and systemic racism." So, for me, knowing what the solutions are, pointing them out regularly, but knowing that the Canadian society in general will not listen to my voice, that's for sure, and do the work that they need to do. So
Mhm.
I don't feel alone. Like obviously all of my ancestors went through this, and we've seen that with the Royal Canadian um, report on Aboriginal peoples. Like we seen that in 1996. They wouldn't listen to those voices either, and now we have all of these Indian residential school survivors that testified that Canadians don't want to listen to, and then we had
Mhm.
all of these families of missing and murdered loved ones that Canadians aren't going to listen to. So, yeah, it's a tough battle to be asking for regular safety that anybody else would demand and expect, and knowing it won't happen. And I've said to my family numerous times, I will die from a totally preventable medical condition prematurely because of systemic racism and bias. And there's nothing I can do about that. I've tried. I have tried. I've put
Well,
in
that's
the
what I'm
effort.
trying to do.
Yeah, you are too. And
Hmm. I don't
we're in solidarity when it comes to this, that's for sure.
I don't want to see anybody harmed anymore. Like, you know, 4 months before my wife, Joyce Echaquan, which was mentioned a little while ago, the abuse against her, the harm, and then she's dead in the helicopter, and it was their fault.
Yep.
And then my wife, and I'm thinking, well, there's got to be stuff in between. There was, and then you look today, and it's still happening every day.
Every day. Every day.
And
Right now, there's a child being apprehended. Yesterday, actually, I was really upset because there's a whole family of kids that were apprehended through the court system, and the poor family had like minutes notice, sent me a poster last minute, and like it didn't get looked at, shared, or nothing by folks. And the ones that did see my email replied late and said, "Sorry, we missed it." But those kids are gone now. They're
oh my,
not being returned to that family. There's the different legalese, and they're in that legalese. They'll never go back to the family now, and it's disgusting. It's criminal.
that's not
It's
right.
it's criminal. Yeah.
Some things I kind of like there is some families that do need help. There's no way around that. But I have seen some of the bands and stuff coming together to actually put the fostering care child right there, keep them on the land, on their land, by their people, close, so they can help the family and work to get the family back together. Our foster care system is so horrific in this country where 5% of our country is indigenous, yet 85% or 75% at least is indigenous children in the foster care system.
Yeah, and the
That
Office of
that
the Youth and Child advocate brings out a report every year showing how many of our children were murdered in the system, and everybody's
Yep.
silent on it because they're okay with Native kids being murdered by the government, and it's
Yeah.
disgusting. And I don't respect like citizens who claim to care when they don't speak out and they don't amplify the voices that are speaking out about it. So
Mm-mm.
anyway, I do appreciate you always coming on and giving us updates. I appreciate what you said today. Is there anything else you want to add for today? And then hopefully you'll be on next time with even more
Yeah.
great news.
Well, like I said, I will keep you updated. Sorry it's been so long because it has been quite a while, but a lot of things have been going on in the meantime, and I've just been trying to work up to get into this public inquiry going, and it's finally now happening. Three
Good.
conferences, and on the last one, which just over 6 weeks ago, the judge said, "I don't want this to last any longer." She goes, "We got to get going on this." She goes, "So 3 to 4 months, get a lawyer, Cory, get it set up, get things going." She goes, "And let's get back to this, and let's have this inquiry." I'm like, that's perfect to me. That's exactly what I want. I don't want to push it. She said, "Well, you push us up, or we can't push us up forever." I'm like, "You think I want to? No, I want action. We need to do this
Mm-hmm.
now."
Yeah.
So, of course, any more updates that come in the near future, I'll let you know. And we have a build up of stuff we should talk about. We'll get back at it again because I want to. I got to keep myself going, keep positive, and I want people to see that
Yeah.
I'm not hiding anything. I'm out here telling you what I know. Everything's there. You want to find the paperwork. And then when I found out that you can actually go and view the public inquiry and the 3 meetings we've had already,
Mm-hmm.
you know, go ahead. And now you can investigate even more. And
Mm-hmm.
that to me is, you'll see that Cory tells the truth. I'm here to fight for justice. I'm here to fight to protect everyone else. I'm here to make sure that, you know, we somehow get a fight against these systems to stop them from doing this to people, to stop the harm that's been done, and stop it from continuing. Because if we don't, they're going to continue to do it every day.
Agreed. Well, thank
It's
you. Thank you,
unfortunate.
Corey, for coming on and letting us
Thank you for
know.
having
And
me.
yeah, well, and we'll have you back when you're ready to tell us something new. That's for sure.
Let's hope it's a lot more positive and a lot more, hey, we're getting action. That's what I want to see. That's
Well, and so we're gonna have your GoFundMe in the show notes so that that way people can help you. I've shared it already on Facebook. I'll share it on all the other socials as well, and go from there. So, never
I
hesitate to
appreciate
reach
you.
out. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and I'm glad you're keeping up the fight and
Well,
able to keep going. And I hate that you've had to relocate because the RCMP won't protect you. I know what small town Alberta's like in the bullying, so I'm glad you're safe.
well, that one there it's one of the scariest small towns I've ever lived in, I'll tell you that. I've been in a
Yeah,
lot of places. And after I read that write-up that 1937 the Nazis moved to Hanna, Alberta, that blew my mind. Then I realized there's a lot of racism there.
yeah.
And just before I left, though, it was starting to get very colorful in that town. It was beautiful because you were starting to see there was more Asian, and then there was some, black people showing up, and then there was one, and I was like, hey. And I seen an indigenous couple, that kind of scared me, and they were young, eh? And I told them, you live here? Well, no, we're just here for a bit. I'm like, okay, that's good, that's good. I didn't,
Yeah,
I didn't even get into details because I didn't want to, but it just
yeah.
like, wow. So hopefully towns like that, and our world can start to change to a better to, realize we all bleed the same dang color.
Mm.
We're all
Yeah.
humans,
I
but
feel
we're all
you
living
there.
beings.
I feel you. Like, oh my goodness. Thanks, Corey.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it was great getting an update from Corey, and I hope you all go back and see that. And if you can just do one thing, just share his GoFundMe. I would love for you to share his whole story, but if you can just share his GoFundMe, that would be great. Um, I would love to talk a bit more about the leadership and all the stuff that's happening right now, but I'm just want to focus on Corey's issues and make sure that anyone who's interested in learning more, I've had a free Indigenous book club for years now, and on Monday we're doing braiding legal orders, implementing the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People by lawyers John Borrows, Larry Chartrand, and a few other folks as well who edited this. I would love to have you at least listening in and giving us some feedback of what do you think of that one. I'm just going to say Arc of the Medicine Line by Tony Rees is our November book club, which is obviously very relevant with this ridiculous 51st state conversation. The Reconciliation Action Group, I really wish that folks would share some of the information we've been sharing. I was talking earlier with Cory about some child apprehensions, and a few members of the group have already been doing that work, and we have supports for folks that are interested. But you have to follow, you have to share it. So if you're interested, please do. Masi cho to my ancestors, to my granny, to my mom, of what strength looks like through your example. I want to thank my dad for teaching me to be strong and blunt, my stepmom for showing me what a proud culture is through her Austrian roots. To my husband, Darcy, I am so honored to be your wife. You produce and edit the show. You are my husband, my childhood friend, father of our child, and you have witnessed decades of racism and sexism. To our child, we are blessed to learn from you. We are honored you chose us. You give me daily accountability to be a better and stronger person. I hope my daughter and my family will be proud in the future discussing these things. And for folks who follow me online, they are part of an organization called You Say, and there's a documentary called Sky Sisters. It's a lot more local for basically the next generation, talking about the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two Spirit. So I hope you consider watching it on this International Women's Day. I honor the Blackfoot as the elders and members have been so kind to me on my Red Road journey. Elder Red Crane taught me how to pronounce my spirit name in Blackfoot. Leonard Kenny taught me how to pronounce my spirit name in Satu Dene. My humblest apologies to the elders and language keepers as I try to learn. My Patreon account is Native Calgarian, where you can pledge and support. Thank you, previous donors, for showing your support. If you value listening or watching and can afford to give, thank you. For those who cannot afford to give, I'd love to hear from you at nativeyyc@gmail.com, where you can send in your comments or questions. I also have a YouTube channel that you can go and subscribe. Go to nativecalgarian.com for the latest podcasts and pin posts on social media. Last thing I'd like to do is a touch grass moment. I say a lot of dark things, and I just wanted to point out that Wob Rice with EWC Press, the independent publisher, they've done this wrestling stuff, all sorts of things. But anyway, last year's Moon for the Crusted Snow passed a tremendous milestone. It has over 100,000 copies sold. To mark the occasion, they sent him a gift. They commissioned Red Spade Records to cut a vinyl record of the opening moments of the audiobook, and they had a copy framed for him. And he said he was really stoked to get that. So I just wanted to put that out there because our Indigenous authors like Wob Rice deserve to be recognized in that good way. And 100,000 copies is a lot of books out there. So let's hope a lot of people read them. So way to go. And I always end with a side eye to all the Calgary rabbits. You're lucky I'm not tradish. And my beautiful cousin would respond, or you'd be in my dish. Thanks, folks, for listening.